The Newsline.
Hello and welcome back to People's TV. On the 11th of this month, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu delivered a special address following the Defense Cabinet's decision to assume control of the Gaza Strip. In his remarks, he provided the latest updates on the ongoing military campaign, its current progress, and Israel's plans for Gaza in the coming days. We have prepared this video commentary along with a concise summary of that briefing for your attention. Netanyahu stated that pockets of terrorist cells, numbering in the thousands and heavily armed, still operate within Gaza. He warned that these terrorists remain determined to repeat the atrocities of October 7 and are actively waiting for the chance to launch another massacre against Israel. He asserted that Gaza's civilian population remains under ruthless, ironclad control, even as its rulers vow to erase the Jewish state from the map. Civilians, fed up with having their humanitarian aid plundered and being gunned down when attempting to reach demilitarized zones, have begun confronting the terrorists head-on. The Prime Minister stressed that Gazans are appealing to Israel and the international community to free them from Hamas's brutal rule. Addressing the two-state solution proposed by France and a coalition of other nations, he declared that Israel cannot accept a neighboring entity led by a terrorist organization committed to its destruction, a ruthless group whose sole ambition is the eradication of the Jewish state. The Prime Minister also addressed accusations that Israel's operation in Gaza is an attempt at annexation. He made it clear that Israel has no ambition to turn Gaza into a colony. Its goal is to liberate the territory and its people from Hamas's oppressive grip. Netanyahu stated that the war could end as soon as tomorrow if Hamas released the hostages. We at People's TV note, with deep regret, that no one in the international community has shown the courage to pressure Hamas into doing so, a failure we consider profoundly shameful. Speaking about Gaza's future, Netanyahu outlined three key priorities for his administration. First, to demilitarize the Gaza Strip by liberating it from Hamas and other armed groups controlling the area. Second, Israel must ensure its own security against future terrorist attacks by establishing a high-security buffer zone. Finally, a civilian administration will be set up in Gaza that can coexist peacefully with Israel. Netanyahu emphasized that the IDF has no alternative but to continue with the outlined measures, as Hamas persistently refuses to surrender or release the hostages. He added that the IDF currently controls 70% to 75% of the Gaza Strip, with only Gaza City and the surrounding central mountainous areas left to be liberated. Netanyahu briefed that civilians will be informed to evacuate and move to designated safe zones before the launch of this decisive military campaign. Measures will be taken to ensure humanitarian aid reaches them without obstruction. Medical facilities are also being arranged. He noted that 2 million tons of food have already been sent to Gaza, which has a population of around 2 million, creating a surplus of aid. He challenged, which other army feeds the people in enemy territory? He stated that without such aid programs in place, the Gaza Strip would have become a barren land, devoid of human life, after 2 years of conflict. He reminded listeners that humanitarian aid trucks sent to Gaza were violently intercepted by Hamas, deliberately creating food shortages. Additionally, he pointed out that the United Nations withheld dozens of aid trucks sent by Israel at the Kerem Shalom crossing, an entry point the IDF had liberated specifically for this purpose. The United Nations Food Program has now begun releasing these aid trucks. However, many trucks loaded with tons of food remain idle in parking areas. The head of state also outlined 3 measures to streamline the distribution process, starting with secure corridors that enable all concerned parties to safely transport food and other humanitarian aid. Second, the number of distribution points managed by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has been doubled. Finally, Israel took the initiative to airdrop aid, even though several countries later claimed credit for it. This airdrop was launched by Israel to ensure the supplies would not fall into Hamas's hands and to deliver aid directly to the people of Gaza. As we emphasized in a previous video, it is the hostages who are being deliberately starved, not the civilian population of Gaza, a fact the Prime Minister reaffirmed in his address. Speaking about false propaganda and the absurd accusations directed at Israel, the Prime Minister stated that the demonization of Jews is as old as human civilization. He noted that before every great tragedy targeting the Jewish people, a shameful and baseless lie had always come first. In medieval times, Jews were falsely accused of opposing Christians, poisoning drinking wells, and using Christian infants in ritual sacrifices. These fabrications were so widely believed that Jews were either expelled or massacred. The most horrific example was the Holocaust, in which 6 million Jews were murdered. Back then, these atrocities targeted individual Jews, as they did not yet have a nation of their own. Today, however, such acts are directed against Israel itself, a sovereign state. When asked by journalists about the timeline of the operation, the Prime Minister said it would be announced shortly. He emphasized that, as before, civilians must be evacuated, expressing confidence that the process would succeed as it did in Rafah. He also recounted how a former senior IDF officer warned him to assume that none of the hostages would still be alive once the operation began, a statement he refused to accept. We at People's TV believe this remark reflects the cruelty of Hamas, and everything Israel once believed about the group has now been proven true. Israel has brought home 205 of the 250 hostages, but only 148 returned alive, the rest came home in body bags. Of the approximately 50 hostages still in Hamas custody, only about 20 are believed to be alive. During the press conference, journalists also inquired about the restrictions Germany is reportedly considering in relation to the sale of military equipment to Israel. It is well known that Friedrich Merz is a steadfast ally of the State of Israel. However, the Prime Minister explained that, despite their personal friendship, German leaders must at times approach such decisions with caution due to significant domestic political pressures. He further noted that senior German officials had personally reached out to him, assuring that they believe Israel's actions are justified, even though they have been compelled to yield to political sentiment within their own country. In response, the Prime Minister emphasized that while Germany must navigate its own domestic climate, Israel must take all necessary measures to safeguard its citizens from terrorist threats. It is already confirmed that the State of Israel will soon launch a powerful and more effective military campaign in the Gaza Strip. Against this backdrop, the statement he made represents a significant development. In addition to its military achievements, the IDF is making notable strides in humanitarian aid distribution. Civilians are starting to believe that peace and stability may be within reach, especially once Prime Minister Netanyahu returns from his tour in the United States. If this report helped you see the situation on the ground clearly, don't keep it to yourself. Like, share, and subscribe to People's TV, where truth has no agenda, and facts speak louder than spin.
Subscribe us for more details.